top of the agenda. And we have a quorum. The agenda was properly posted, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Find a flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, then, we have public appearances. This is public's opportunity to speak on any subject. If you are from the public, we just ask that you share your name, your address, your municipality, and hold your comments to no more than 3 minutes. We do have a submittal form here from Abby McDowell. Abby, you want to come up and share your thoughts? No, we'd never be sick of seeing someone from...
Good evening. My name is Abby McDowell. I'm the homeowner at 208 Heather Drive. At the last meeting, a representative said that a development had been on the village comprehensive plan for many years. I tried to locate this plan on the village website. It took me 15 minutes and a lot of random clicking before I found it. It looks as though this document was last amended in 2020, and it looks like it could be very out of date. If this document represents the village vision, I think it should be easier to find, and it should be on the forefront. Also on the agenda tonight, you are going to review a memo from the village planning director regarding the public hearing notice distance requirement. At the last meeting, I pointed out that while the village did fulfill its obligation by notifying residents within 400 feet of the construction or rezoning site, it still felt misleading. Requesting a memo to review ordinances from the other Dane County communities seems like an attempt to justify the village's failure to properly notify the entire neighborhood about this major development, one that will significantly impact traffic on our main road. Our Arrowwood neighborhood is unique and small, with only one entrance and exit to main village roads. Every resident along Taylor Street should have been notified about the rezoning of this parcel, and they should have received communication from the Lakewood developers, as they will be the most affected by this development. As every parent has said at one point, and as every child has heard, if other communities are jumping off of a bridge, should you do it also? Thank you.
Thanks, Abby. Anyone else in the room or on Zoom? All right. We'll move on then to discuss and consider our meeting minutes from the Plan Commission meeting held on December 11th. Any questions, comments in regards to the meeting minutes as presented?
I move approval on the minutes as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second then. Any other discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Motion carries. Next then, discussing directing staff to research potential zoning amendment permit for beekeeping at a single-family residence. I think, Aaron, you had a memo in the packet.
Yeah, is one of you, Renee? Renee, okay. Yeah, so I guess this first came about last fall when we got a complaint from a resident about their neighbor having beehives on their property. So that beekeeping is allowed in the rural holding district, but not currently allowed in a single-family residence. We did hear more recently from the property owner with the bee, Renee Gadro, who requested that we bring it up here, kind of like we did a few years ago with the chickens. That came from a resident request as well. So Renee, I don't know if you want to step up here and kind of describe what you do or what you'd like to be doing on the property.
But I just want to point, do I have to push something?
Yes,
Yeah.
please. You got it.
There is a copy of the letter in there that I wrote, but I just want to point out that another clarification that I was looking for was that there was a proclamation for No Mow May in which we support pollinators, but yet we can't have them. So how are we supporting them if they're not allowed in our village? It was just something that I wanted you guys to consider and talk about. And if you don't support bees in the village, then maybe that proclamation should be rescinded.
Thank you, Renee.
So I guess I'm just looking for direction from all of you if you want to dig into this more.
Has this been covered in other communities? I'm just curious. I don't know if you've looked yet, but
I haven't yet. I was waiting for the direction from you.
Yeah, I
guys, but
figured you
I'm
were.
sure it is allowed in other places. Did you say Madison does?
okay. So, gentlemen in the audience just said that Madison, it allows up to 6 hives, and there's $10 permit in the Madison proper. So, just to share with those on Zoom. Any comments from commission members?
I would be interested to have you at least start looking at what some other communities do, and I mean, pollinators are very important, and to have a large swath of community where they can't find a home. I know it's like getting to be a larger distance, and the rusty patch bumblebee, we're kind of on the edge of that area. We have promoted where that habitat should be maintained too. So I think it's worth investigating.
Other comments from commission members?
What can we do in the meantime? So it's not up to us, I guess. Maybe it's a village board issue. So what's the state of the bees now? Are they gone?
They were already dormant for the winter, and so the officer said just move them in the spring before they're active again.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna. Do you bring them in the basement? I bring them in.
They'll wake up.
Yeah. In the meantime, right? Like, where are we at? We're sort of like in limbo, and I didn't want. What's the state of the bees? So they're still there. They're sleepy. Okay.
If we're getting towards springtime, would we want to consider, or could we consider, like, I had the word a minute ago, holding the ordinance, or the word is just escaping me. Would we suspend it?
Yeah, it's a little tricky because the way that the uses work is that if it's not listed, it's a prohibited use. So really the only way to allow it would be to add it to the ordinance. So I don't think that's necessarily an option here just because of the way the ordinance works.
Sure.
I think the prudent thing was just to kind of move forward, at least see what staff finds for the commission. And obviously the bees are dormant right now. If we can figure this out, hopefully one way or another, before that would, I think, certainly be helpful for the family as well as those impacted.
Can that be by next month?
Yes.
Thanks, Fred. Thanks, Aaron. Anything else you need from the commission?
I don't think so. Yeah, so we'll take it up again in February.
All right. Then moving then on, we have a presentation on a concept from Near and Far Brewing Company for potential development of multi-tenant commercial building on lot number 45 in Coyle South. This is, again, just for discussion. There is no action to be taken from the commission. And
He's a little shy, so Garrett's over there. He's the guy that actually makes the magic happens
At the brewery.
with the brewery. So hi, everyone. My name's Edward Ray. This is my partner, Melissa Ratcliffe. Melissa, I don't know. You want to?
Yes, I'm Melissa Ratcliffe. I'm a village resident, and I'm here in my personal capacity as a business owner, not as an elected official.
Thank you. Yeah, so Melissa, and myself and Garrett are co-owners of a new entity called Near and Far Brewing Company. And for the past year, we've been looking at different locations. Garrett and I reside in McFarland, and McFarland was our site of destination. But when you have a persuasive business partner as Melissa, you end up finding a home in Cottage Grove. I also want to give recognition to Mr. Humberg, as his property is the one that we are under contract for. We met earlier today with the Utilities Commission, as there are some requirements for this project to manifest, especially around the interceptor. Our vision for this brewery is really to have a 10,000 square feet building. Part of that would be about 6,100 that is dedicated to the actual brew space. wanted to come forward to the Plan Commission with initial concept for some feedback, as our plan is to come next month with a formal proposal and just make ourselves available to any questions. We do think this will be a good addition to Cottage Grove. I like Cottage Grove. As I've gotten to know Melissa in this area, I do think it's going to be a nice fit as it really becomes that community hub where people can gather. Where if you are dog friendly, like I am with a Beagle and a Golden Retriever, you can bring your dogs and have a gated area for your dogs to run around while you have a drink. We also plan to have a full-size kitchen. And so we like the land. We're hoping that with support from the village and this commission that we can land this project at the Coyle Highlands property. And so, Melissa, I don't know if there's anything you want me to add, but.
It's great to be back and see all of you. It's weird being on this side of the table, for sure. And Troy, I just want to give a shout out to you. Hi, it's been a while. But you're still on Zoom like usual. Do you ever come in person? No, I'm kidding. So as we looked at properties being on Cottage Grove Road, knowing that what the village's plan for this corridor, having it be kind of a gateway to our community. As I have my partners and we go on this business venture, I feel that this is a good spot for our business, for the brew pub, for our community, and looking for some feedback from all of you as to what you think could make this site better, as well as we bring forward this concept.
And before we jump into questions, there's one comment I would like to make and say, with this area, there are a couple of also vacant lots. And we believe as part of this project going through, as well as the issue of the interceptor, that becomes a catalyst for other additional businesses to come and really fulfilling kind of the vision for this area. I think what Melissa was speaking to was, as we've read over the plans, this area was to be the corridor, the gateway to Cottage Grove or Madison. And we believe this project not only would it benefit the business or the community, but also will serve as a catalyst and open the doors for additional businesses to come as well. And so, I don't know, we have the concept up here. Happy to answer any questions, any feedback.
Questions from commission members? Alex, you look like you want it.
Alex has the look I had when I was on the village board of McFarland.
There's always a button to push somewhere. Nice drawing. So obviously we don't have a lot of details. There's a note for the potential rooftop patio. What's your vision for that space? How real do you think that potential is? What's that look like?
With the, we've gotten about 2 estimates from 2 different GCs, and all. It's possible. I think as we envision this place, the rooftop for me, and Melissa certainly can speak to that, I think there's not a rooftop bar or area that we've seen within Cottage Grove. Part of the appeal for this lot is also the retention pond, and so the rooftop bar kind of completes this project.
Yeah, it's a little detached from residences too. So like, initial reaction is like, hey, people are looking at people's houses, whatever, but you pushed it up to the road, and so that seems, anyway. Do you envision this also as like a community meeting space, gathering space for people to come and gather, meet each other? Or is it purely restaurant vibe, what you're looking for? Like it's not gonna be, it's gonna be more, hey, we're gonna go there, we're gonna have a meal, we're here for an hour and a half, where you think like, hey, people can just pop in and out and meet with people, leave as we
drafted,
center.
sorry to cut you off, as we drafted our business plan, one thing that we were all very clear about is that we did not want this to be your typical dive bar. We wanted it to be a community hub, and part of the design is to have somewhat of an event space. It's not your dark alley bar where you go in for a drink and run home. It's actually a place that's inviting, which is why we try to incorporate things such as the patio and the dog area, where you're just not jumping in there for a beer. You're actually joining in there with events, meeting friends, and having somewhat of an event. So to answer your question, yes.
And I guess the last one, is there gonna be like a bus to Badger games launching from here?
Be determined.
Okay.
Not out of the realm of possibilities, I would say. Certainly as a Packer fan, I expect to have a space to watch games football badger, college, whether it be football or basketball or whatever sport. So, and the opportunities are there for sure.
I think this is something that this corridor is really missing, and that whole west portion of town, to be able to walk someplace, ride your bike, meet neighbors, meet your family there. You know, I think this is really an area that would really benefit from this, I think. So I'm excited to see more.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I do agree with the bikeability. Before I got a motorcycle, I used to ride my bike everywhere. And one of the things we've asked GC recently was about, and even Mr. Allenberg, for on the other side of things, is the ability to be able to put some bike racks around there. And so being able to encourage people, instead of driving, hey, you and your partner ride your bike here and have a beer. I don't know if you can ride your bike with your dogs, but again, being able to walk or just bike and encouraging some of those physical activities as well.
Some people have smaller dogs that they can stick in a backpack.
My dog has been in a backpack, yes.
I've got a beagle and a golden retriever, and my golden retriever absolutely could not fit in the backpack. So, I think our objective tonight really is, we have this project, and we wanted to make sure that, one, we introduced ourselves to the Plan Commission, introduced the plan, and say, hey, if there's any feedback, we want to be a partner. I've sat on the village board, and I understand that a project has to match the village's vision, and we do think it matches, which is why we picked the location. And also, we do think it will promote economic growth in that area. But also, again, want to make sure that this is a partnership and not anything adversarial, and that if there's any feedbacks, that we can at least attempt to address those.
I have one more question.
Okay, go for
Okay,
it.
thanks. One more question. It's really not for you guys. Maybe it's more for village staff or whatever. So there's the light at the CVS, and then there's a stop sign down by the gas station. So there's very few controlled pedestrian crossings across Cottage Grove Road, and I see it now from, I guess it's Artisan Square, trying to get to the Piggly Wiggly, and it's Frogger. So I think this intersection was designed as maybe a pedestrian, I'm gonna help you, blinky light type of thing. So I guess the question is there plans? Do we need to consider plans? Has there been anything in the plan of how to help pedestrians cross one side of the road to the other?
Certainly something we can bring up with.
Your mic. Aaron, your mic.
Turn on mic.
Sorry. Yeah, definitely something we can bring up with Public Works. We've done those kind of
Yeah.
blinky light things other places in the village, so.
I think it helps.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting a full stoplight or anything like that, or building in a tunnel or bridge, unless you want to build a tunnel or bridge, but something,
Only if there's a TID available.
it can get dicey.
Are we talking TID or sorry, bridge or a tunnel?
Either tip, yeah.
Yeah.
Depends on the weather. Thank you.
So currently, there's a crosswalk there with a landing at Sandpiper. So for at least this location, there is a means to get across with signage and everything. Whether or not a beacon, to your point, is needed, I think that could be kicked over to, Public Works and, taking a look at that from that perspective. I had a quick question just on timeline. Overall, the project looks great. It's as Heidi said, this is something that certainly could be very much utilized in that area. There's nothing really around there for folks to take in like this, or actually in Cottage Grove, particularly when you add a rooftop amenity like you're proposing. So what are you looking for timeline? Tonight's just an introduction to the Plan Commission. I know you met with utility earlier, talk about the utilities as Ed referenced. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, so we've been in the planning process for this probably. I laugh because I remember when we started as our brewer, Garrett, he goes, this planned for twice as long or 3 times as much. And I was like, no, we're going to get this done in 2024. And now it's 2025. But part of that process is we've learned a lot throughout the way. We've been able to partner ourselves with a good architect, a good attorney, and the good resources, where it's really dependent on a couple of different things. I think the biggest uncertainty for us right now is the interceptor requirements on that within that location. And with acceptable approval and I guess a mutual agreement between the seller and the village, we are ready to move as fast as permitting and schedule allows. We have a strong relationship with our bank. We've had an architect that we've been partnering with over the past couple of years. It's for us, our longest delay has been not compromising on a location and finding the perfect place. And we do believe this is the perfect location for us. And so a long-winded way of saying, outside of permitting approvals and of course the decisions by different governmental bodies, we're ready to move along.
All right, thank you.
Sorry, you're gonna say something.
I think it's dependent too on how fast the site work can be done too, which if Andrew Homburg wanted to give some insight into that, maybe. Maybe not. No, it depends a lot on what can be worked out with the interceptor and move from there.
And Andrew, I don't know if you want to make a comment, but you certainly can. You won't steal our shine.
You gotta come
You
to
gotta do the mic. You gotta do the mic. That's where I got my hand smacked all the time.
Good evening. I'm Andrew. So we met with utilities earlier this evening to get this in front of them and start to really have a full dialogue about how to accomplish our common goals. My brother Chris and I bought the second phase of Coyle Highlands South 6 years ago. Prior to that acquisition, we met with village officials and talked about the issues that arise from the requirements to install 3 significant interceptors through this little 20-acre parcel. In a nutshell, we can't bear the weight of that on 16 single-family lots and 4 commercial lots. We are not contributory to any of those 3 interceptors. There's 2 storm sewer and 1 sanitary sewer line, but we're obligated to construct those. So what we're asking for is funding help from the village to make this happen. Right now, every bit of effluent that leaves the village comes down through the Southern Grange interceptor that goes to the Vilas Road lift station, all the way from Amazon down to Vilas. There's one pipe that ultimately takes it. And so what this interceptor would do would take everything west of the intersection of Sandpiper and Cottage Grove Road and bypass that, run it down through here, through the old farm golf course, and create capacity for the system. So that's the hitch in the giddy up that Melissa referred to is coming to an agreement. All those years ago, we sat with the village officials and everyone around the table nodded their head yes and understood that, the concept of being partners in this building infrastructure to facilitate the growth of the village is something that we could all work together towards. But time passes and here we are, it's 2025 already. So we're really hopeful that Melissa and Ed's project would be a way to catalyze this area. And not only do we have an awesome brew pub, but we have 16 new residential sites and 3 more opportunities for commercial development on this important corridor. So that's the nutshell.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. Any other questions, comments, concerns from planning commission members?
Thank you, Andrew. Any idea what the cost of that is?
I don't know.
I mean, I know it doesn't really concern us, but I'd still like to know.
Yeah, we met with Andrew right before the holidays, and Strand was taking a look at that, and I think you guys were taking a look at it too. And
And the other piece of information is this is all within TID, so there's a mechanism available.
So Andrew just shared, just so those folks in Zoom, that this particular property, as well as the 16 lots, et cetera, is in TID 8, so there's potential for
and that,
TID funding as well.
and the interceptor was listed in that project plan.
Yes.
As, potential costs.
Yeah.
And one thing I would add is the but-for test. And I recognize this outside the scope of this project or this body, but as it relates to our project, is that the parcel really has been sitting vacant for some while, and you can't but ask yourself, why is that? And well, if you look at the current economy with interest rates and the cost of goods, it's at the end of the day, individuals have to balance the risk for their project, and the risk has been on the burden of the developer. And so, I don't want to go too much into that, but our goal for our project, right, I guess selfishly, is we we like the site, and we're hoping again to be partners with the bodies that be in terms of one, not just bringing our business, but also our business serving as a catalyst for economic growth within that area.
And bring a great new business to our community.
How many employees do you anticipate?
We plan on having about 2 full-time and about 12 different part-time employees.
Hours of operation?
Hours of operation, I wish I could tell you that off of hand right now, but I would tell you, if I had my business plan on me, I could give you a precise number.
Just a ballpark. I mean, you're not talking about staying open till bar time, are you? Or
2 a.m., absolutely no.
Okay.
I think the latest we had on the weekends was probably about 11 or 12.
Okay.
Don't hold me to that, but I can confirm to you it's not 2 a.m.
It's fine. Thank you.
Any other comments from commission members?
I did have one question, and this was something that we were looking for feedback on. And the first one I would probably ask Melissa for help with, and that's one about the setback and the potential for a second road. When we got driveway, I keep doing that, sorry. On this plan, it shows one driveway, and we wanted to make sure before we come forward with this body to make sure that a second driveway would not be required, and then also to talk about the setbacks. Melissa, I don't know if you want to speak to that a little bit more.
Well, the setbacks on here, I think, are because it's a Cottage Grove Road is a highway, and maybe is there an opportunity to not be set back that far since it is a more residential road here in Cottage Grove, since it's so residential. And I think, yeah, the bike path is outside the property line. Oh, is that, one other thing to go along with that is the, is that on here? For the benches,
The bench, it was on a different. I
on
think
a
it was
different, yeah, with the pond, never mind.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't, yeah.
But anyway, the driveways, is there any concern there? If there should be one or two, or is that a question we'll run past?
I mean, we'll want to show this to the fire department.
Yeah.
They may have
Yeah.
concerns about getting equipment in and
Right.
out of there.
That's a little further down the road,
Yeah.
I think,
Okay.
for you guys in discussion. But yeah, the fire department definitely want to consult regarding that.
And then
And
this,
the setback would be the similar thing as far as checking that and working with Aaron to make sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's per the ordinance. We
Yeah.
could discuss changing the ordinance, or it could be done as a PUD, or we could just
right,
Yeah,
make it stay 40 feet.
okay,
That's really it, so.
awesome.
I
Thank
think,
you.
to summarize, commission members, keep plugging away, right? Getting
Yeah.
nods and, yeah, looking
Great.
forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, yeah, we will see you all next month. Thank you.
All right. Next then is to discuss the comparison of the public hearing notice requirements among Dane County communities. Aaron, you took a look at this.
Yeah, so maybe some of you were here 5 or so years ago when we last looked at this. That was kind of when Shady Grove was going on. At that time, the notice requirement was 200 feet. We doubled it to 400, which at the time was the largest out of the Dane County communities. We just went back and verified that's still the case. As Abby said, that doesn't mean we have to do that, just because we're already not doing what other people are doing, but that doesn't have to be what's driving this. What I think we don't want is for staff to be picking a distance based on what I think should be necessary for the project, because I'm always going to be wrong. So I think if there was some adjustment that we were going to consider, I would make it based somehow on the size of a project, like a plat with more than X number of lots maybe has a longer notice, or a PUD with some number of units maybe has a longer distance. If we do start playing with the distances, I might also say that we have a lot of public hearings for conditional use permits where we send out 50 notices and nobody comes. So maybe that's a case where we bring that back to 200 and maybe the longer distances just for these bigger types of projects. But open to whatever feedback you guys have on that.
Go ahead, Alex.
Thanks, John.
You're looking
I
at me
didn't
like you need permission. Go.
Yeah, I do. I wait my turn. I didn't consider the size of the project. That's as I was putting my thoughts together for this item. Because yeah, you don't want to be noticing the community when someone's putting up a garage or fixing their window. However, big things they should notice. One of the things I did recognize though too is we moved our water billing to monthly, and so I get that in the mail. And I'm guessing everyone else who doesn't get it in the mail gets it via email. And why could we just not notice everybody in the community? From a burden perspective, mailers, a physical thing, individual for that one-off instance, has a cost, administrative cost to it. I'm guessing hopefully the emails are mass sprayed, and once it's compiled, it's gone. And then I'm also going to guess there's a similar process, and as long as it's in the envelope and it doesn't change the weight of the envelope, there's no additional burden from the mailing. So just mail everybody, because you answered your own question. Whatever you do, you're wrong, right? And so if you just mail everybody, you're not wrong anymore. Everybody knows about it. I get lots of propaganda mail, I call it propaganda stuff, in my electric bill, and it's not necessarily related to the utility. So I know there's challenges because utility commission is a separate business unit entity within the village, but they're already doing mass mailing. So I don't know, something I was thinking about.
I wonder if you may start to throw them away if you're always getting all these notices. There might be a point where you're like oversaturating and then it's tossed. Not that we shouldn't increase it because of that, but we also do notice every single meeting that we have. So you can sign up for notifications of, specific committees to be sent the alerts for their agendas. So we do have a public notice for everything that we do. So I don't want there to be some misperception that we don't tell anybody what we're doing, because we do have a public agenda that has a packet and everything that we discuss. So that's I don't necessarily have.
No, I agree with you. I agree
I
with you on
think the
that.
bigger the thing, maybe the bigger
Yeah.
the notice area. So I do like that idea.
I agree with that. It's the trigger, right? It's that, I don't know if this is a word or not, but anyway, yeah, it's all in the public. Nothing's hidden. The stuff, and no one shows up, the budget. I remember being on Village and no one shows up, and then the meeting after, my thing wasn't funded. I'm like, you literally weren't here when we did the budgeting to defend your project. And it's all there. Unfortunately, it's a pull trigger at that point is the problem, right? Not everyone's doing it. And so if we push data out, that's what people are looking for. That's that 200 feet. They're clearly, you see a bulldozer showing up. Something's happening. Let's investigate that. Versus here's a push information coming out. Not a great solution. I'm not saying my idea is great, but I'm just thinking we already communicate with everybody anyway. We either have their email address or we know their address. We mailed everybody their tax bill. You don't know all the projects at the beginning of the year, but we did get the flyer with the, hey, here's what's in your tax bill, so we know how to do flyers. I don't know. You're not gonna win, Aaron. It's a tough one.
Is it not required to be done through the mail? At least at one time that was, correct?
Yeah,
It had to be, I thought, first-class mail.
I think you're right.
So the mailing requirement, that's a village imposed requirement. So it's not like a state requirement. That's just the village saying, we're gonna do this. So the mailing requirement is something the village has imposed on itself.
Okay.
So otherwise, state law just says you have to do a class 2 notice, which could be, it's published in the newspaper twice.
One thought I had is, rather than size of project, maybe it's the type of change being sought. So for instance, maybe there's greater distance or notice if it's a change in comprehensive plan or change in zoning. And I say that because as Fred mentioned last meeting, this area has been planned for residential for 20 years and there's no requested change in that. So sometimes when you're noticing, you want people to come and provide context to what the request actually is, and what they're requesting is exactly what the village is asking them to do in this instance.
Didn't we have a communications or marketing committee at one point? They did website stuff.
Think so.
Are they still around? I mean, because that's a great opportunity, because again, you're trying to push information out. We need more opportunity to get information without hand delivering things, right? I thought we had a,
We had a communications plan and we had a communications person for a little.
There was a public relations
That's
committee like 20 years ago that
Yeah.
they're listed here.
that created the initial Facebook page and used to be the ones that would approve or disapprove Facebook posts, but I think we're well beyond that.
Yeah, the last time they met was 2021. Was that an ad hoc committee that just doesn't exist anymore in our ordinances, or is that? Must have been an ad hoc committee that we got rid of.
Yeah, I think we're getting off topic now.
Well, it's trying to find a solution to this thing, right? So is it 200 feet, 400 feet, and how do we not burden the village difficultly? So, yeah, okay, fine, fair. Rabbit hole a little bit.
Well, I mean,
I'm not opposed to including something in the water bill or whatever. The problem with that is it's once a month, so you might not know about the hearing until after it's already occurred. So I don't think that's necessarily a viable option. I mean, is there a way that we can encourage people to sign up for an email about public notices? And it's kind of like either all or none.
I mean, we can probably put a page on the website that has, I know you have a lot of notices too, Lisa, for election stuff, that just kind of lists all those, and then people can subscribe to that page if they want to, like they can subscribe to.
I just see.
We already have that, actually. People can sign up and get, agendas and notices texted or emailed
But
to
maybe you could like put a flyer in with the the water bill, calling that out so that, that's a way of getting more information out. But we can sit here and make this 1,000 feet, and the next big thing that happens, they're going to say they didn't know about it. And
I
mean, we doubled it
people
once
do know about.
since I've been here. So
At the end of the day, though, people do know about it. That's kind of the, there's always a first time to know about, everyone always wants to know sooner than they found out. It's
right.
just how it is. In this case, there's not even an application. And once there's at least another 5 meetings. So, yeah, I guess happy to do more, but we already do the most in the county.
I guess to Matt's point, I think if we start sending notifications with utility bills, not a bad idea, but if you're getting more and more in a utility bill, that just becomes garbage. People don't even look at it anymore because it's every month you're getting more and more stuff. I personally don't see there's any issues with what we do right now. I got fielded phone calls from people that live over in the non-notification area asking what was going on, asking what the meeting was on whatever Thursday night. So again, to Matt's point, people do know what's going on because people in the neighborhood that are beyond that 400 feet are talking to their neighbors, which I think is great. So I don't see any need for a change at all.
could we include a notification within the utility bill once, twice a year, just saying that, hey, you can get notices and you can sign up for this on the village website. Because people might be interested in something totally different than public notices too as well. But and you can get it on anything related to what's going on the website and those postings. I mean,
And John, later this year, I know Inga's hopeful to develop a digital newsletter
Yeah.
that could end up being monthly. And, that would, I don't know if it'd be a form of notice, but it would certainly have updates on, various things from all departments, including development-related items. And then people could sign up for that. But you're still gonna have, people that didn't know about it when they wanted to know about it.
I guess it sounds like we're already trying to do as much as we can, and we just continue down that path as far as communicating and over communicating where we can, so folks can get the information if they do wish to get it. The electronic newsletter, Matt, you just brought up as another point, and we've talked about that before. It's another form of communication. We do send those notices on the bills now too. There's a little section on the bill that we can put little things on, notices on there, and take advantage of that as well. So if we have a blank month, we can, let people know they can sign up for notices. And the 400 feet, I think, is, again, you struggle with that because if it's a huge project, it probably should be more than that. But what's the right number? I don't know.
Yeah, I think you have some of these properties that are off the path, 400 feet, there is no neighbor potentially, right? And so, yeah, you're kind of stuck. Who pays for if we're currently under ordinance to do the mailings, is that paid for by the developer, or we pay for that?
Currently, we do. The developer gets billed for a lot of other things, Strand's time and
Sure.
Rick's time and things like that.
Okay. John, I also don't have a recommendation to change it, leave it at 400, seems to be the spot we're at right now.
I'm not interested in seeing it changed.
Okay.
So I'm hearing keep the ordinance, but can try to be more creative about how we
Communicate.
get stuff out.
Keep pushing things out different ways to get folks.
We need more residents to come to the meetings. Thank you.
Anything else on this? All right. Next, then, we have discuss and consider ordinance 1-2025, amending the zoning ordinance related to tobacco and vape shops, fences, and keeping chickens. I think this one's yours, Rick. Oh, here.
These are things we had already talked about and kind of set aside for a little bit while we were working on other ordinance stuff. I think with some of the alcohol-related things we had been talking about in conjunction with this, we still need to look at it a little bit, but I think getting these things on the books would be good. The pool fences in particular, believe it or not, this is the time of year when people start thinking about putting pools in and wanting to know what those rules are. I think getting the tobacco and vape shop stuff in the ordinance before we have one of these come looking to build here would be good, and then the chickens at the certain land uses, I think, was a fairly minor change, so.
Yeah.
This is all language we looked at before. We had a hearing about it before, and I just want to go ahead and look for an approval at this point.
Any questions from commission members on this one? We have talked about it multiple times.
I'm glad to see everything finalized together, so I would move that we approve ordinance 1-2025, amending the zoning of ordinance related to tobacco and vape shops, fences, and keeping of chickens as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and second
Maybe
then.
just double check with Lisa, is it 01/2025? Okay.
01. Okay. Any other discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Motion carries. Next then, discuss amending the zoning ordinance related to library parking requirements. Aaron went through this, I think, a couple meetings ago related to the space versus parking stalls.
So this was tabled at the November Plan Commission,
Correct.
so
This is-
we don't need to really talk about this.
Well, the village board asked that it be brought back up.
Yeah,
It's
so
still
the,
tabled, though.
so the village board has referred this to the plan commission to seek the amendment. So because now it's in a formal like request rather than just seeking feedback or getting direction, that's a different item than the previous item. So basically, you have, for all intents and purposes, an application to amend the zoning code at this point.
It's
So
the-
if
it's
the
the
plan
same-
commission,
It's literally the same language as the November meeting, so it doesn't look different.
it's still a request from the village board though to process this. There is a public hearing requirement, so that would happen next month because the publication didn't make it in the newspaper. They changed their requirements apparently. So next month there would be a public hearing on this, so there doesn't have to be like any action tonight. But this is something the village board did refer to the plan commission. If the plan commission doesn't take any action within 60 days, then it automatically goes to the village board under state statute.
But how can it reference learning ladder? That's,
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
that's, now we're talking about a specific property.
I mean, we haven't drafted the actual ordinance language yet. This is just,
So you want us to make an amendment without anything written in front of us? I take
no,
issue
this
with
is just a
that.
discuss item
Yeah, it's not consider.
There
to
were-
see if you have any feedback on it before we bring it back as a public hearing.
Yeah. So the feedback would be motion to table again, because it's still actually tabled until the referendum results are published.
So next month, this would come back for a public hearing. If there is no action taken, it automatically goes to the village board for consideration of the ordinance.
That you haven't written yet.
Oh, okay, that's fine, I understand
Yeah.
that, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
So I have questions. So when we initially wrote this parking requirement, we came up with 48 spaces. Based on what? And now today, you want to significantly reduce that.
Well, so as you recall, we looked at kind of parking requirements generally a year or so ago. Again, in comparison to other communities, not that we have to do what other communities do, but this was flagged as an outlier pretty significantly compared to other places. It wasn't really a pressing issue at the time because there was no library. Yeah, and then, yes, there may not be. But there may be a referendum about it. We may be asking taxpayers to pay for a project. And we may be asking them, if we don't change this, to pay for parking spots that aren't gonna get used. So I think it's at least worth having the discussion to see if we want to change that or not.
So Fred's question was, why did we get 48 to begin with? The Wayback Machine, which could be before your time. Why 48? Somebody thought 48 was a good number. And now, because of a location, not because of an actual, you want to spend money and update things to match other villages. You did that study, thank you. There was a lot of work in that, actually. But again, we wouldn't be having this conversation if the area was compliant to begin with. I mean, it's just, so Fred's question.
Yeah, so
Why
that was
48?
before my time. I don't know why they came up with the number that they did
So,
at that
I
point.
mean, I'm not opposed to reducing it, but I don't think we should be comparing ourselves to the city of Madison, the city of Middleton, and the city of Monona, because those are cities with public parking abundantly near their libraries.
Yeah, and we're not reducing it as far as,
But when you look at DeForest or Wanakee, they're still relatively large numbers. And I mean, if you're, if you're talking about a library and it's gonna end up being some sort of public gathering spot, I think you're gonna have more than 14 people there, especially when you add employee parking. Or if they're gonna hold any kind of event. And although at this point, we don't know where the library is going to be, using the learning ladder as an example, you're parking a block away. There's no parking on Cottage Grove Road.
So, Fred, it sounds like you're like, hey, 48 may be too big. Maybe 40 is a good number. So if Plan Commission recommends get the math to 40, then you're saying, but what you're saying though, Larry, is board can even override that. So like if we take no action, they're gonna take action, which is fine, that's their job, right? That's the process, happy. If we say it should be 100 parking spaces, we want it increased to 100.
Mhm.
Board can still override that too.
Correct. The
So-
Plan Commission is providing a recommendation to the board on what the number would be. So, if you recommend something higher, you recommend keeping it the same, like that's the recommendation. And then it goes to the board and they would consider the recommendation, but ultimately make their decision. Like they're not bound by the recommendation of the Plan Commission.
Because Fred, your analysis right there is pretty good. I mean, maybe 48 is too much. 24 is not enough. There's no way near. I mean, you see these, especially when you think of pickups, drop-offs. I mean, even Learning Ladder, you'd see it stuffed and overflow when they were open for pickups and drop-offs and that type of stuff. And so if you're thinking people going there for an event, 40 isn't a bad number, especially considering there's no adjacent parking. But again, we're thinking location, we're not actually thinking library. So if we're thinking library, it's probably it could be more in the 40 range.
And this is an ordinance minimum when
So
the
I have
village can always choose to put more. than
No,
that,
I
yeah.
get that. But a hypothetical question, because there's nothing before us. But now someone comes forward and they want to build a community center, a library, and a pool all in the same building. Is it going to be 48 parking spots, or is that treated completely different and now we need 300 parking spots?
To leverage that, sorry, Fred, before you answer, what it does is it actually sets a wrong precedent to builders, developers, and I know this is a municipal project, so it's slightly different, but you can pick the completely wrong location and we'll fix it for you. However, we built these ordinances with some design and plan in mind, so yeah, with that, you
I
can
mean, I
break
think right now
museums and
it's a
stuff, yeah.
standalone library, but we don't know. So how does that work? If someone combines businesses, where does the parking ordinance come from?
Then I would take it to be cumulative if you're adding additional uses to the site. If it's a library and then you add a pool, that's a whole different group of people that aren't necessarily in
So, and off the top of your head, you don't know what that number is.
for,
If someone were to propose that, I'm playing devil's advocate here because I'm afraid if we set the number too low, we're going to be coming back trying to figure out how to add parking.
And I think the precedent's danger, I'm gonna lean in on that too, is the first sentence references the specific property. So we're not building an ordinance to suit the use, it's an ordinance to suit the space, which again shouldn't be necessarily how we do stuff here. It should be the use. We talk about bees and chickens and residential and whatever, commercial things, and now it's like, okay, well, this space needs this, so let's do that. And I think that takes us down a road we really don't want to go in.
Well, and I mean, I'm obviously very old, but back in the day, we did outdoor activities at the library in the parking lot. you know, we took chairs out there and read. I don't know 100% how a library operates today, but I mean, I don't know. 48 is too many, and 14 is definitely not enough. So that's my 2 cents.
So what I'm hearing is the discussion for the plan commission would be for staff to get rid of the learning ladder part of it. And again, that's what you had. And look at this more towards like DeForest or that type of recommendation rather than.
I'm the only one, I think, who said that. Alex, I think, sort of agrees.
Yeah, I'm at 40. I mean, I think.
I'm not saying the number yet. I'm just
Yeah.
saying,
Okay.
you know, what,
Fine.
that's the discussion
Yeah.
we should have. Does that sound, am I capturing it correctly?
Yep, and I think you could do variances. So if, hypothetically, the wonderful Stoddards next door was the library, you have this parking lot as overflow, and you could create the variance somehow or whatever and say, hey, we're gonna combine. You can do that at that point. This case, we don't have that availability to us at this property, which is what we're referring to here. So I think, yeah, move to 40 at the lowest.
So it's based on square footage, is that how this is written? So the 40 may be applicable for whatever square footage, but if we're talking about like a big museum, you know, the Miracle League of the United States is gonna build their museum in Cottage Grove, then you would base that on the square footage? Is that kind of?
Yeah.
Okay, I think there's more to come next month.
I appreciate the discussion. This is the kind of feedback I was hoping to generate. So.
All right,
So so we, mechanics, Larry, we tabled it.
Rick.
Yeah.
Actually.
You're Rick, you're not
Yeah.
Larry?
I'm Rick.
Larry's his twin
No wonder
brother.
Larry won't answer me.
Yeah.
Larry, Rick, sorry. I'm Alex.
Yeah.
Pleasure to meet you. What's the mechanics?
So next month, there will be the ordinance and a public hearing for consideration. So that's its own separate, I guess, quote-unquote application. The matter was referred to the plan commission from the village boards. Like the village is, not that there's like one representative from the village that's the applicant, but like the village board is the applicant here. So the ordinance will come before the plan commission, have a public hearing, then there'll be the discussion. The plan commission would then presumably, not saying you're going to make a recommendation, but would make a recommendation at that point. If there's no action taken, like I said, state law says that if 60 days passes, it automatically goes, and the ordinance says it has to be within the subsequent meeting. A recommendation has to be made by the subsequent meeting following the public hearing. So state law trumps the village's ordinance, but 60 days basically from middle of December. So the plan commission would make its recommendation, and then it would go to the village board at the meeting following the plan commission.
And it's here today because the village put it back on us even though we tabled it. What meeting did that occur?
December 16th?
16th, I think.
And that was through a motion and vote?
Correct.
Any other comments, questions regarding this? Which leads right into the future agenda items. We just covered one of them. Anything else, Aaron, that we want to, I don't know if the near and far will be back quite that quickly, but
Possible. I'd be a little bit surprised if they are drawing it up that fast. I think they're more in the early stages. We'll do some research on bees. At this point, I doubt Lakewood will submit for February. I guess they still could, but it doesn't seem like they're on that track at this point. Yeah, those are the ones. Oh, we'll be looking at the site plan for the police station as well.
And I had a question about I read in the municipality magazine about signs, and there's some rulings, I don't know. But if that's worth looking into with the sign ordinance at some point, not next meeting, but sometime, we might have to look at that.
Yeah, I have thoughts about signs. I haven't looked at your ordinance specifically, but it's, yeah, that's something that we could take a look at, because it's been a big topic over the last 5 or so years.
All right, anything else from anyone else? With that-
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have motion and second, non-debatable. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Keep coming to meetings.
Have a good week.
Keep coming to meetings.